the next area we want to dig in that's relevant to our listeners, which is, Netflix kind of blossoming into a potential meaningful ad network. And you mentioned earlier that while gaming is still more of an experiment with them, that they are much more confident in kind of doubling down on an ad-based model and growing their ads business. What are kind of the specifics that you would reference in their earnings report or just your other observed insights that show that Netflix is getting more serious about becoming an ads business and a marketing channel for other products?
Yeah, I mean, they've grown 70% quarter over quarter on ads-based tiers, right? So there's a lot of expansion for that. They closed deals with Microsoft on the sales side and tech side to try to start really building out things. I did hear some rumors that there was potential, shifts and kind of going to actually developing in-house, and see that in some of the job recs that they have open right now. But it's definitely a way to diversify their monetization, right? And potentially hit different audiences that they're, haven't been to before, right? So subscription services, you're paying for a product. And if we're flipping the script on an ads-based service, the consumer is the product, right? And so I think Netflix is really recognizing that, and it's a good way to uncap potential revenue, right? And so if you kind of tier that system and, have different ways to kind of gauge against that, I think that's a huge revenue upside for Netflix. And they have really been at the vanguard of personalization and recommendation systems. There's nothing really stopping them from having meaningful contextual ads. Like they closed this deal with WWE, imagine Monday Night Raw, and they have all the sponsors coming in, and there's e-commerce that can actually just happen directly through that broadcast. And you have purchase points and ads, and you could just see a world where they really take advantage of that stuff. And so, the ads business, I think for them is going to really shift the company in a meaningful way.
Yeah, Josh, just really one quick question. I know you said 70% growth quarter over quarter. Do you have the actual number of how many users are on the ad-supported service right now?
Yeah, last I checked, it was around 23 million monthly active users.
So it's going to be meaningful. We're not talking about Facebook size yet, but that is substantial.
Yeah, and it's definitely a customer expansion, right? Because subscription service is the first point of whether you have to make a decision or not, right? And you're automatically signing up for that. And this is just a smoother onboarding, right? You download Netflix and you just watch something, get an ad, and then it is a little bit of difference of a user funnel. And so I definitely think it could have some user expansion. I think it is a very, very good way for them to do that. And they really have been great at personalization and recommendation engines. And what's stopping that from translating into an effective ad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it strikes me as we're talking through Netflix as an ads business that they have two of the, I think, most valued elements of any ad network. One is inventory that you can't get anywhere else. And the other is the data to do unique and powerful deep targeting, meaningful targeting. I think it's just a question of how they resource for that part of the business and how much they care about it. But they're extremely well positioned if they do decide that this is going to be a pillar of their business for the ads portion. And it does seem like things are moving that way.
Yeah, I think the only thing that they may, want to consider is, historically, because it's been a paid subscription service, ads could be a little bit more intrusive, right? So from a product design standpoint, they're really going to have to be thoughtful and, making sure that they kind of understand their existing consumer base, trickle things in so it feels organic, so contextual based ads seem a little bit smarter of a technique and really leaning on personalization as opposed to kind of having something that's not authentic to where the brand currently is, right?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I think I totally agree with you, right? Personally, I hate ads. That's one of the draws to Netflix for me traditionally has been the fact that you can watch high quality television and not watch ads. And I think when you compare this to someone like Amazon, they have a video product that's an Amazon Prime video product. And they've just recently introduced ads as a net new thing. And one of the major guys at Netflix head of ads was on Stratechery, which is another podcast. And he was talking about how the expectation of the user is fundamentally different for Netflix than it is versus Amazon. Amazon, you're very, very used to seeing ads, right? And so for them to start cranking ads into their video product is basically there's no big deal there. Whereas on Netflix, it's that's going to really piss off your core audience if you're not really tactful about the way you're going to do it. And so it's just a little bit of, as a premium product, most premium users don't love being targeted. And so, to your point, it's expansion of the audience, but we'll see how that works. Do you have Netflix and do you watch ads on Netflix?
Not now, but if they're meaningful ads where I would actually transact through commerce, yes, I love the ad. But my current Netflix experience has been, I just watch a season of Orange is the New Black or Peaky Blinders, and I'm just going through it. And so there's no interruption, right? I think the interruption has to make sense, right? So having live events like WWE ads makes sense because the consumers are already kind of like used to having that effect. And, YouTube TV has ads within it, right? And so it makes sense because it's basically just TV in the cloud, right? And that's kind of like consumer behavior that's already been kind of there, right? But from inception of that product, ads were always there. So Netflix is really going to have to kind of think how, like, maybe it's only relevant for new users or, and kind of exclude existing users and, all that stuff. But they definitely have to be thoughtful of it, right? Because someone like me who isn't used to that experience, it's going to be a little bit jarring.
Right. Yeah. And I think you touched on a good point. I mean, I think there's meaningfully different experiences today, depending on how relevant and effective the targeting and delivery of ads are on one product to the next. Like my personal example is like, I hate ads in like 95% of my day-to-day existence on the internet, but I really don't mind. And then sometimes like actively read and review the ads that hit me on Instagram, because I feel like Instagram, I'm always seeing like really interesting and relevant products to me. And so I'll actually like check them out because I've been trained that like, oh, these things are really catered to me and sometimes are showing me things that I don't even know I need. But that's very different from, if I'm just like reading a news site and bombarded by like 20 different ads from every angle that are like mass targeted.
Yeah.